to benefit the Opera House. The reappointment of zoning board member Michelini Comerford. No.
No.
We have the new procurement policy. Is everybody okay with that? The ambulance purchase. We talked about it at the last meeting, if you remember. And then we have the O'Brien and Gear Incorporated Amendment number 2 to Professional Services Agreement in connection with water system improvement. Fredonia Farm Festival. Apparently what happened at the last meeting, because last year Fredonia Farm Festival was not part of Fredonia Festivals, or Festivals Fredonia, by mistake it was left out. So we fixed the mistake and passing the resolution today.
On that issue, Trustee Christina has agreed to co-sponsor. I'm not willing to co-sponsor.
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay.
Yeah. At the resolution, you want to talk about the resolution? Who's talking about the, what is that? It's been asked here to, to suspend the open container law. And we were talking, we're thinking that we don't need to do that because we already have another law in place.
Right, that's correct. We do have another law in place. It does have requirements for the vendors who wish to sell alcoholic beverages, but we don't need to suspend the law. It would just be if the vendors put in their paperwork.
So where it says be further resolved that the request to suspend the open container law has not been determined yet?
Yeah.
You want to reword that?
Well, the thing of it is, I mean, you could leave it the way it is because we haven't technically determined it for each particular vendor because we don't have any applications.
Okay.
So it'd be fine to leave it the way it is, but just so we are all on the same page, we do have the law in place. If they provide the applications and the insurance and everything else they need to provide, then we don't need to suspend the law or anything like that.
Okay.
Okay?
And finally, the municipal solutions. What happened, I explained it in my email. You remember last year we got the 1 year 0% loan for the emergency water line pipe replacement. Well, this loan is maturing sometime in May. So we had communication with EFC, and they suggested to apply for an extended 1 year, to extend it for 1 year. Now, this is kind of complicated and time-consuming application. So Jim suggested to talk to municipal solutions, and we did. And I have to say that I was very impressed with Jeff's knowledge. He suggested that we do that and they can do it, but at the same time we apply for another grant to maybe be able to pay not half, up to 60% actually of that loan, which is seems to be a good idea. So, and they can do that. So because we are kind of on a tight schedule, time schedule, I asked if we can pass the resolution today because from EFC they asked us to apply before the end of the month. So if you're okay with that.
I have a few questions. I read over the contract and read over the information that it provided. Dan, maybe you can help us a little bit. I don't see any termination clauses in here. Doesn't show anything regarding a 30-day out if something were to come about and we decide we wanted to terminate their contract. I didn't see anything in there.
No, there is no 30-day termination clause in this contract. Basically, what they're doing is they're offering to help us with some paperwork, and
okay.
Once that's done, then they would be done. I can tell you, I've worked with Municipal Solutions several times in the past. Always been impressed with their professionalism and how they really have their act together. It makes things a lot easier for the people on the ground who need to do the paperwork and cut the checks.
Okay. A couple other questions I had. It said invoices will be submitted periodically. I would like to recommend that they submit the, any invoices or paperwork monthly, if we can, or show some sort of monthly voucher of what progress they've made on this report.
We can ask for that, certainly. Generally speaking, they would submit the invoices as they completed sections of the project. If you look at the first page of the project, it's got 1 through 5 in Roman numerals. I know 5 is miscellaneous, so that's not very helpful, but those would be the different phases of the project, if you will. So like when they put in an application for the new grant, they would submit an invoice for the new grant work. When they put in an application for the drinking water funding, they'd submit an invoice for that. I don't, usually working with Municipal Solutions, it's not the kind of thing where, you know, it's a real tight schedule. Basically, their work depends on the work of the state and our work too.
Okay. And one other question I had for you, towards the end of the contract says we have based our fees and assumptions on the project will be completed within 12 months. If this time frame is exceeded, we reserve the right to amend the terms of this agreement. I'm not too comfortable with that wording. It shows that they can basically carry on without any board approval or any other.
The project is going to be completed before they even start.
But if for some reason they can't, they have a clause in there stating that they can
Right.
continue on prior to this.
Basically, Roger, the idea is that what they've got is they've got, you know, this package of documents for each one of those sections they need to put together. There is absolutely no reason this wouldn't be completed within a year. I mean, the project itself is going to be well done before that. Basically, what they're doing is they're covering themselves so that if you did get a municipality, say somebody that was dragging on and on and on and on, and this got into something more than they were planning, then they reserve the right to talk to us about more money. They can't unilaterally change the agreement. Okay, this is not the agreement, this is a proposal. They could not unilaterally change any agreement just because it went over 12 months.
I mean, just their wording alone says we reserve the right to amend the terms of this
Right,
agreement.
they reserve the right to come back to us, but if you look at if the documents you're looking at, that's not the contract, that's just their proposal that they provided the village with at our request.
In the contract, they have a maximum, there was a not to exceed, there's a not to exceed number in there.
Yeah, there is, in the one section, I think down at the bottom of one of the pages, it says inclusive of all fees, whatever, they don't anticipate their fee exceeding $13,000, they expect it to be less.
They have a minimum too. They have a minimum and a maximum.
Right, there is a minimum in there, it's not much, I forget what it is.
It's about a little over 6,000, I think it was minimum.
Something like that.
Yeah.
Okay.
And that's basically because, I mean, like I said, they are beginning all this paperwork. They're gonna, if we turned around 3 weeks from now and said, hey, stop, we don't want the grant anymore, they still will have had the paperwork to do.
Right, okay.
And
Those
the
are
other
just some
good
of the
thing
questions I have.
about
Sure.
the other good thing about our discussion with him was that he is willing to keep an eye out for grants regarding our reservoir, which is, we desperately need that. So he offered that as well. Now, it's not included in that letter, of course, but that's something that you can consider at a later time, maybe next month or so.
Okay. Yeah, let's just add a few questions. That's-
Oh, absolutely,
Thank you.
not a problem.
I'd like, if we can kind of revisit the procurement policy again, I may have a couple of quick questions on that. I briefly read over the resolution, you know.
That one's super simple. Our procurement policy in the village, and the way it stands right now, recites New York State municipal law. Basically,
Right.
it says pursuant to New York State municipal law, section 103, I think it is, you know, the limits in the village's procurement policy are this. Since the last 20 years, since the procurement policy has been updated, the state law on which it's based has been updated significantly to add the, you know, to raise the limits, basically. $10,000 doesn't go quite as far as it used to when they wrote the original. Right. So basically, all I did was go through our procurement policy right now and change the numbers to reflect the new New York State numbers. As I've recommended to the mayor, we should make the number changes now so that we can use this as we go forward. But we should also revisit this in July or August, because there's a bunch of new state changes to the state procurement policy that we're gonna want to incorporate. They're just not in effect yet.
Okay. Now, does this fall for the public works procurement and our purchasing procurement? Okay. What is our village policy?
That is the village policy. The village policy has two sections, one for purchasing
Right.
and one for public works, just
Right.
like the state policy.
Right. What is our charter state, or what is our laws and books state regarding our procurement policy? I don't want to know the state, I want to know
Okay,
ours.
that is our procurement policy. If you look at the original policy, you'll see where what our policy says is, all this stuff is very important, public money, fairness to vendors, everything else.
Right.
Therefore, we're gonna lay down these numbers for maximums that are gonna have triggers, okay? The Village of Fredonia's procurement policy is just a policy, it's not a local law or anything. And what it does is it says pursuant to New York State Municipal Law, Section 103, I believe, these are our numbers.
And what are our numbers?
The numbers used
If
to
you
be
look at the
less
numbers
than
that are
that.
there, if you look at the resolution itself, when I say we're changing from to, okay, what we're changing from are our current numbers. So like, for example, you've got number 4, purchase contracts with an estimated value of $3,000 to $5,999, whatever, shall require verbal quotes unless exempt. Those numbers are just the increased numbers. All the rest of the language is the same. Those numbers just reflect the new state numbers. Basically, we had originally, I want to say we had 10 and 20, and now they've gone to 20 and 35 for the total projects. Things like that, but it's just, we didn't revisit any of the language. I think we should do that later. We just revisited the numbers to update them pursuant to the state numbers.
The previous one was from 1977, I believe. That year
I
they
think
did
they
it.
updated it one time since then. I think they updated it in like 89 or something like that, but I don't know off the top of my head, but I think there was.
All right, very good. Anything else? Right, let's go to new business. Justice report for the month of December 2018. Have the fire department annual report for 2018. The building inspector's report for December 2018. Have a relocation of traffic light at 40 Central Avenue.
I'd like to visit that for a second, if we could. Okay, it should be relocate a street light located at pole number 40, not address number 40, which would be pole number 40 on Central Avenue in the village.
Oh, whole number, okay.
Right. And what I'm asking the board to take a look at is just, I'd like to see if we could pass a resolution to move a street light, or a street light hanging over Central Avenue, located at pole number 40, to go over the crosswalk located on pole number 41, which is the next pole heading north on Central Avenue.
This is what the university has asked. I discussed it with them, and they are prepared to pay for the relocation.
Not a traffic light, it's just a street.
It's
It's a street light,
yeah.
yes. And it makes much more sense because it's right off of the intersection instead of right over nothing.
Something with National Grid, though? or no?
National Grid is going to do it, yes,
And but
and the
they're-
relocation is going to be paid by the SUNY.
Okay.
But they do need a resolution to move that.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So I'm asking the board to drop we can drop a resolution for next meeting to have that in place.
And then we have the installation of a new street light near 560 Temple.
Correct. And there was another, that was brought to my attention a while ago from a resident that lives in that area. I guess at the tail end of Temple Street towards his house, where the thruway bridge comes down and it joins the village. It's very dark through there, and there's been quite a bit of deer activity throughout that area. He's requested, probably for a few years now, requesting a street light be placed there for safety reasons.
Sure.
So I just added that along with the with the street light that we're moving.
Would that be an LED?
It would be an LED. In your packet that was given to you, there was some information regarding what type of light they want to place. I guess there's different luminance.
Right.
So it's up to us to decide on what we would like to place there. But obviously, the residents in the area probably have a say in how bright of a light they want, because I don't know if I'd want a light shining that
No,
bright
they
in my
don't. Actually,
living room.
might I suggest that, I have talked to National Grid about changing, not all of our lights, but at least our Main Street lights downtown to LED. And he's going to come here to make a presentation to the board, and maybe we can include that light as well, so we have one price for all. I mean, obviously, if they need a light there, they need a light.
Right.
But it's different, the lumens are different downtown and different neighborhoods. So I plan to do that sometime in February, so if you're okay with that.
Yeah, that's fine.
Would make sense.
And again, this,
Price.
the addition to this light would be no cost to the village to put the light in, but obviously it would add energy costs.
Energy costs,
So there wouldn't be any cost to the village. We just have to pick the type of bulb or LED that we would like placed it there. So I'm asking the board if we'd be interested in passing a resolution to install that new light.
There's also a question about color rendering, which is not discussed here. So, and there's no generally accepted color rendering index, but there's a difference between the HID lights and the LED lights, as well as the incandescent lights. So some people find the LED lights unacceptable in its color rendering ability.
Too harsh. Too harsh, so the LED lights.
Right, yeah, if we could get
Hey,
it,
guys.
you know, something that's not going.
And he's going to go into that. I don't think we can ever have, I mean, you can never go to LED that is the same as incandescent. But there are different types, and he can present all those different types. And actually, this is what the National Grid Efficiency Incentive is. He is proposing to give us the price for as much or as little from the village that we would ask to, and then discuss the energy savings. And also, this can be also part of an incentive through a grant to pretty much cost the village nothing as we're doing it. So it's going to be part of that presentation as well.
While we're on the subject of lights, I just wanted to ask Tony, not in here today. Okay, I won't ask Tony anything.
Tony's sick.
Okay. I was just curious to see how he was making out with the lights in the park. Does anyone know where we are with that? Has anyone heard anything?
He said they're fine.
Okay.
That's all I know, okay. Okay, so I'll go to old business, Festivals Fredonia 1,000 donation.
During the last meeting, I brought up the subject that we had received 2 letters from the Festivals for Fredonia. One of them had the dates and times and places of the events that they want to host. The other letter had a donation request of $1,000. And I brought up this subject last meeting, and Mayor, you had quoted saying that this amount of money was designated in our budget, and the Festivals Fredonia has received money in the past. I talked to Larry, who's in charge of festivals, and he confirmed to me the other day that they have never received any money from the village.
I don't believe I said that. I believe what I said was that I put not 1,000, I put in my budget $500 for Festivals Fredonia, which I don't know if they made the final budget, and I have no idea if they received anything. I suggested that we put $1,000 in the new budget. I have no knowledge as to who gets what. Okay. That's the treasurer and the clerk, or the administrator at the time, so I have no knowledge of that. But I do intend to put $1,000 for the Festivals Fredonia in the new budget.
Okay.
Have we looked at last year's budget? I mean, that's just a quick look, we could, after the meeting, you know?
Yeah, I could take a quick look.
I'd like to request that the village attorney review the legality of making donations,
I asked already.
and then you can report back. You don't have to do it now, but
Well, I mean, I'm
I'm
not
under
quite
the
sure what you
impression-
mean, Jimmy.
I-
The village I mean, or the village, the municipalities, traditionally make donations to community projects like that. That there really isn't a problem. The only thing I mention about it is, because Trustee Britz is on the committee, he shouldn't vote on it, and that's it.
Okay, well, you're the attorney.
So they told me.
That's why we pay him the big bucks.
I'm just questioning it. For some reason,
Town of Montfort does, right?
Yeah, they donate $500 a year.
I mean, I don't know if they have different.
that doesn't
they
mean
have
it's
different
legal.
laws,
I mean,
but-
I don't know. I know there are some limitations to making donations.
Oh, sure, donations of public money, absolutely, but with amounts like this, there's no issue. I mean, Dunkirk makes donations to committees and programs and festivals. Silver Creek does it, everybody does it. I'm sure that Fredonia's done it in the past. It shouldn't be an issue at all.
That's under community development?
Quite possibly. I'm not familiar enough with the way the budget runs here, but there should be a budget line for that, yeah.
I don't think we put it in community development. I don't remember exactly what, but I'm
We have a
quite
budget line
positive.
for publicity, which would probably.
Okay,
something like
probably that was it, yes, okay. Yes,
Talk
that,
about, Jim, because with the fire department, we're limited to, a couple of years ago, I don't know if we went through an audit or we had our legal lawyers advise us of donating to different things that we did in the past that we can't currently do, so I understand what you're saying. There probably, I don't know if there's new laws or whatever, but the fire department had to abide by newer laws that said that in the past, we donated to like buying fundraising tickets and stuff like that, different things. We couldn't do that. And
Yeah, that's because they're a 501c3, not-for-profit corporation. It's limited what you can donate towards once you have that status.
as a village, we're not a for-profit. So.
No, the fire department is, the volunteer fire department is, so that's why they can't.
Okay, we might fall into the same parameters.
the village is a municipal corporation.
We're not a
It's total
501c3.
Total different?
Yep.
Okay.
How about the arts? It goes under the arts, and we're allowed to donate to the arts and things like that in the community. I mean, it's
I don't think it's an issue,
it's
is
an arts
it?
festival.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah. There you go.
All right,
Sure.
okay, moving forward. Labor grievance procedure?
I just want to open up some dialogue regarding that. I think at our last meeting, we had a short discussion of why we were doing it. I just want to open up some dialogue to the rest of the board to maybe take a look at, possibly taking a look at redoing that resolution. And here's a couple of my reasons. I'd like to, at this time, I'd like to ask one of what the department heads, maybe Chief, you could help me, or Chief, you can help me. Walk me through a grievance policy or a grievance procedure, let's just say in your department. Where does it go and where does it stop, and who makes the final decisions at each of those steps? Can you explain some of that to me a little bit?
Ours right now, we've never had the contract never had a department head in there before.
Right.
So ours went to the village administrator, then it went to the village board, then it went to arbitration. Where yours is different? Yours went to you first, right?
Ours actually would go to a supervisor, a sergeant. If it couldn't be remediated there, it came to me. If it couldn't be remediated there, it went upstairs to the village administrator. And if it couldn't be remediated there, it went to the board.
Okay.
And then ultimately to mediation or arbitration, depending on the nature of the complaint. But, and I can't speak to the CSEA contract.
Ours just had 3 steps.
Just three.
But you never had a department head.
No, we never had a department head.
So I understand that the union contracts are set up to have a liaison between the union and the village, correct?
That's not really what this is, though.
No, I'm asking a question.
No, I mean, okay, I'm not, there is a departmental liaison to the different, departments and stuff, but what they're talking about in this, over the resolution we passed in this specific issue is very specific. Each of the contracts has steps for
Correct.
the grievance procedure. They're all a little bit different, okay? They all start with, or most of them start with a supervisor and wind up in an arbitration. The contracts did have a provision for If you can't have your grievance solved at this stage, you can go to appeal it to the village administrator. Previously, the mayor was never in any of the CBAs that said the administrator, because that was what he was doing. At the same time, we don't have an administrator anymore, and I think it's kind of interesting. We had that conference call, and Trustee Essick was on it. One of the things that NICOM said was, if you guys miss a contract, okay, I told him we were trying to negotiate with the unions and get everything straightened out. He says, if you guys miss a contract, or you wind up with something with an administrative language in there, you pretty much read it as the mayor, because the administrator was acting under the executive powers of the mayor. So basically, having the administrator in the contract doing it, basically you read that as, unless the mayor wanted to. All right? So by taking that language out and making this, with that resolution, just substituting the mayor, is really something we probably didn't have to do, but it's good for keeping everybody.
I think my concern here, and I just want to, again, I'm just talking out loud,
Absolutely.
is what happens in a situation of a conflict of interest.
Like what?
I'll give you an example. Let's just say the mayor of the village has a brother that's a fireman, and that fireman files a grievance with the village. Where does it end? Where does it stop? Where does that?
If there was a conflict like that, we'd have to make some arrangement. You don't plan in the contract for the conflicts. It'd be the same thing as when I said administrator. What happened if the administrator's brother was, worked at the DPW or something like that? What would we have done in that case?
What have we done?
As far as I know, it hasn't come up. And it's.
I mean,
it's.
I'm just, what I'm doing is I'm looking to eliminate that conflict of interest if we ever have one in the future.
I don't think there would be. I mean, you can't, and you could take it to the nth degree. You could say, okay, and if you have a conflict, then it's going to be me, and if I have a conflict, it's going to be Jim. Well, what if we all have conflicts? How many steps where are you comfortable?
I think I think where I'm going with this is I think that the board should be involved in any kind of final decisions or any other decisions. Like I said, you could use yourself, you could use the mayor, you can use anyone as a liaison between the unions to get that information to the board and let 5 heads make a decision rather than 1.
Well, it's really not a liaison, because a liaison, okay, maybe we're talking around it. When I think of a liaison, I think of, okay, if I want a liaison, to the Democratic Party, I say, hey, Jim, can you go talk to the Democrats for me, please? Okay. We're not asking him to make a decision. He's a liaison. He goes and talks to them, comes back to me.
Okay.
What we're talking about here is not a liaison position. We're talking about a specific contractual decision.
Right. And this is my problem.
Right.
I don't feel that one person should have that decision or that power to make that decision.
Were you okay with the administrator making the same decision?
Why can't the board do it?
Well, here's
Were
the
you
thing.
okay with the administrator making the same decision for years now?
But the former administrators used to come to the board in decisions making. I'm not saying all of them.
Okay.
But, again, I feel strongly regarding this because I don't feel that future mayors in this village or future boards in this village or future attorneys in this village, I think it should be something placed upon the board in a final decision. I'm not saying maybe it be at the ground level of a negotiation. We have steps and we have policies.
Ours do go to the board. Prior to going to arbitration, you have the final say before it goes to
Finally,
arbitration.
arbitration, all this.
Does that happen with the police department?
Every
Does it happen
contract.
with the DPW?
Yes.
Every contract.
Well, these are the questions I'm asking.
It has happened, I mean,
Yep.
the
With everybody.
past administrator has brought it to the board before to ask us if we wanted to take it to arbitration at that point. And that would be the same thing at this level then.
Still goes to the board.
Yeah, the board still gets their 2 cents. Whether that's right or correct or legally advisable is a matter for discussion. The truth of it is that we have a wonderful board of dedicated people who really don't know much about the labor law, okay? And so to interject their opinion into something that has legal consequences and liabilities for the village, in my mind, is problematic. However, that's the lay of the land. All 3 contracts in the village of Fredonia eventually bring grievances to the board, whether it's right or wrong. That's the way it is done. That's the way that the contracts say.
Okay, so,
I got
Go
a
ahead.
question.
Go ahead.
You said knowledge and stuff. Obviously, we as board members, you're probably the labor knowledge as an attorney is probably the only one in this administration, maybe other than Jim, who's done it in the past. Neither the mayor nor the board have prior experience or education in grievance procedures. You would probably be our person the go-to person.
Right, and that's why I don't have a step in the process, because I'm advising.
Okay, that's
Right.
exact, but
Exactly.
as far as saying it would be ill-advisable to have the board do it because we have no knowledge in it, none of us do, except you, we could take advice from you.
Well, and I appreciate that. I guess what I'm talking about is in the other contracts in the area, okay? This Fredonia thing is kind of unique in that it brings the board into labor issues. It brings the board into grievances. It brings the board into arbitratable issues that most other contracts that I'm aware of in municipal contracts in this area don't have that at all. The idea of taking a complicated technical issue that has, you got lawyers on both sides. You got lawyers from the state. You got lawyers from the union. To have all that stuff and all those people angling and, researching and arguing, and then to throw the final decision to the board, who really has not, because of the board's function, number one, doesn't know all the details mostly, okay? And number two, doesn't have a background in the area, seems ill-advised to me, but my opinion doesn't matter, that's the way it is.
Yeah, well, we're one of 12 chartered villages, and that's the way we operate.
I have no idea, it doesn't have anything to do with the charter, Doug.
The final
Trustees, I'm
decision
sorry.
is the arbitration, if we go to arbitration.
Yeah, but we're
obviously.
involved because of the way our charter is set up and the duties and responsibilities of the
No,
board of trustees.
because the Board of Trustees doing labor is not in the charter. That's something that's in the CBAs. That's in the collective bargaining agreements for the 3 unions. Has nothing whatsoever to do with our charter. You will
That's the
not find
contract.
that in the
Past
charter.
practice?
Past practice is past practice is nuts on that, because
Okay.
it doesn't go.
Well, it's in the contract, so we have to go to the board, that's there.
Yeah,
I
and
mean,
who
it's-
approved the contract?
Excuse me?
The village board.
The board approved the contract, so the board is in the contract, and is the final step before arbitration. That's, in a perfect world, no grievance is gonna come up here, because most of the times, the department heads have the knowledge and the wisdom to fix the problem. And that's what happens usually.
okay. Just answer my question, that's all. I brought it up because I had questions and
No problem.
and I wanted to discuss it.
That's what I'm here
It's
for.
and that's my job.
And that's my job to answer best I can.
Mayor, I have one other thing under old business. I read in the paper that our audit report is going to be submitted to the board here on the February 4th meeting, is that correct?
That's correct. That's how,
Can we maybe get the information before it's out into the paper, that we can also know it?
you knew that. They were gonna come at the last meeting, and then they had a family issue. I emailed everybody.
Okay, I apologize then. Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And I just got one other thing under old business. Where do we stand with Nate Aldridge? Can anyone explain to me where we are? I mean, I know we passed a resolution to hire him, but has he
Yeah,
started and have we paid him?
When we passed the budget transfers,
Okay.
we transferred $25,000 out of our hospital insurance account, which appeared to be excessive, and put it into treasurer's contractual for $25,000, so he's covered under that.
And has anyone touched base with Nate?
I
Nate
talk
is
to Nate
working with
frequently
me.
about anything
He was-
specific. Not really. We've been talking about the water line grants and things primarily.
We haven't signed the contract yet.
Okay, all right, that's fine.
We have not.
I just had a question.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
You're very welcome. Anything else under old business that we haven't? Okay, open discussion. We put the fire hall improvement, now that we had the presentation, and everybody knows what is involved in that. I would like the board's input as to where you think we're going from here.
I think regardless of whether we look into a new building, a combined police fire building or whatever, or we still have to fix that currently. It needs to be, you can't let it continue to be in a damaged condition, so I think it
I
needs to
agree
have
with
the
trustee
repairs.
Essex.
I certainly agree with that. Just to what extent, I mean, that's my question.
Well, they did state that the roof had some life left in it, is not currently leaking, so I think we should wait on that. It's not, they estimated number of years left, so I think we're okay there. The upper exterior needs to be repaired. I think that, of course, that whole completely around there has to be done. And I think that the doors that they talked about have to be replaced, the ones that need to be replaced, so those are necessary. As far as everything else, I think that's enough to close it in and put it in good shape. That would take care of the needs for now, especially with the idea of the possibility of a new facility, coming along with the.
So you pretty much everything except the roof.
So everything except the roof, correct?
What do you think?
Yeah, the engineers said there's still a few years left on that.
5 years.
5, yep, okay.
Anticipated, that's. could be
Okay.
more.
Yeah, I agree.
Okay. Anything else that you would like to discuss? Very well. That is for that. Good evening. I call this meeting to order. At the regular meeting of the Board of Trustees of the Village of Fredonia, duly called and held on the 22nd day of January 2019 at 7:30 in the Trustees' Room, 2nd floor, Village Hall, Fredonia, New York, and public notice of the time and place of this meeting has been given to the news media and conspicuously posted in one or more designated public locations in accordance with Section 104 of the Open Meetings Law. We should pass the minutes first, yeah.
Whereas members of this board present at this meeting have read the official minutes of the Board of Trustees regular meeting of January 7, 2019, now therefore be it resolved, this board approves the minutes as entered into the official minutes, and be it further resolved that the reading of the minutes be dispensed with.
I second that.
Trustee Christina?
Yes.
Trustee Linden?
Aye.
Trustee Essex?
Yes.
Trustee Bridge?
Yes.
Trustee Barris?
Aye.
Thank you. So at the public portion, we have here today 3 members of, actually not 3 members. We have Mary Leroux, CEO from Brooks Hospital. We have Joe Haas from Clark Patterson and Lee, architect, and Mark Romanowski, the attorney for Brooks Hospital, and they are here to give us a presentation. So, Mr. Romanowski.
Thank you, Mayor. Ladies and gentlemen of the Village Board, my name is Mark Romanowski. I'll get this mic to work. I'm counsel to Brooks Hospital TLC system. We're here just to present an overview of the project that is going to be going through a series of approval processes before the village as we move this particular project going forward. The proposal is to construct a new state-of-the-art facility on a piece of property near the corner of Routes 60 and 20 on the edge of the village. It's the former Cornell University Vineyard project site. It's a 30-acre parcel with C2 business zoning, so it's a permitted use in the district. The project, from an approval standpoint from the village, is going to require site plan approval. It'll also require one minor, well, not so minor, but an unusual variance with respect to a setback because of the orientation of the project site. To orient you a little bit, I know you're much more familiar with it than even I am. but the site itself is a site that sits primarily behind the commercial corridor on 60. So the back of the hospital site actually backs up to Walmart. It's behind the bowling alley. That's really the orientation of the hospital itself on the site. And Joe will get into site details in a little bit, just to get into a little bit more, but just to frame the reference for you on what we're talking about. The facility is about 100,000 square feet total. We will actually be continue to use the one building up closer to Main Street as a kind of a yard storage, equipment, property maintenance building. So we'll actually keep the feel from the road at least largely as it is now. The hospital sits in excess of 900 feet back off of the road. So as I said, it's really kind of pushed back into the corridor. The purpose of the facility, I think the public has known in general that the hospital has been looking to modernize, meet modern standards for providing services to clients. So that's really the motivation behind this. The existing facility, because of its age and structure, doesn't facilitate modern treatment methodologies and the type of treatment systems and how they integrate with one another. So the idea is to provide a much more modern facility for the region. And this is being done in conjunction with the Department of Health and DASNY. So those entities are the state entities that are helping fund to make this possible. The facility itself, bed-wise, is about a 25-bed unit for primary additional care. There'll be 11-bed emergency department, and then a lot of your typical outpatient services that you see in modern hospitals. So this is really the change in the way medical services are being provided, and so this facility allows that to do it. We came to this site after we've looked at several in the region, and for various reasons, they were not really suitable for what we were looking to do, and we've decided on the Cornell site, who, by the way, have been a fantastic partner with us in this process and are very supportive of the efforts for the hospital to go here. We, as I've mentioned, work with DASNY and Department of Health on this facility. We've also worked with the Department of Transportation. I know that that's, of course, a concern with any new commercial facility to an area will be issues regarding traffic. We have a traffic impact study that we'll be providing to the village in the next couple of days. We've already been working with the state DOT on this, especially in context of the traffic circle that's going in at the intersection. So far, at least our preliminary analysis and review with the Department of Transportation are such that we don't anticipate any significant impacts from the facility to traffic, and there's some on-site mitigation measures that we will be using to help deal with that. I'm not going to get into a lot of the finer points of the site plan itself. Those will be issues that the planning board will really be digging in. They are now acting as the lead agency under seeker, so they'll be conducting the environmental review for the village in coordination with all these agencies. So DOT will weigh in, DEC will weigh in, Department of Health will weigh in. So all of the state agencies that are engaged in this, as well as the internal village agencies, will be able to weigh in on that environmental review process. That will be really kicked off in high gear probably by next week with the decision of the planning board to act as lead agency. So that's kind of where we are in a very broad sense as far as the project itself, the process that we have to go through with the village and other entities to ultimately render a decision on this project. I'm going to now turn it over to Joe Hans from CPL. He'll speak to just the design ideas behind the site plan and also the elevation, so you get a sense of the physical nature of the project. Joe?
Thank you very much.
Thank you, board, for having us here. I really appreciate kicking the meeting off with showing you the project. We've actually been working on it since 2016. It's been quite an exciting journey that we've had here. As Mark said, we actually have a 30-acre site off of Route 20. We would have our main access. The barn would be the service barn. We have a front drop-off area around the circle, so we actually are looking at having site circulation with people coming in. They can drop off at the front. We have an emergency department on the southeast corner of the building. We've basically broken the building up into a hospital proper building, which will be 2 stories. The bottom story will be the operating rooms, the emergency department, radiology, lab services. The upper floor would be 24 med-surg beds, will be 4 postpartum beds, and there'll be a labor deck in that floor. The back building will be the service building, the cafeteria, anything that actually serves the hospital that they need from the standpoint of any kind of sterile processing, that type of thing. We are looking at having employees pretty much in the back so that they would feed into the back of the building. We would have an emergency drop-off for somebody coming in with cars. We would also have an ambulance drop-off, which would be a separate area that we would have ambulances come in, so emergent patients and or families could park there to get right into the emergency department. Visitors would be at the front, so we would have drop-offs. We do have, this would be the emergency drop-off at this point here. We do have a front canopy that we would have be able to drop patients and or visitors off underneath the canopy, so any kind of inclement weather that we have, we would do that. My design team's actually gone around and spent time in the area looking at natural, what you have naturally here, some of the cliffs we were looking at and those kind of things, and we're starting to try to incorporate materials into the building that would actually bring that into play. We know that from the history of the locomotives and that type of thing, we were trying to, we actually had a public input from some of the people from the hospital, had some of the friends of the hospital come in, give us an understanding of what they saw from the community, what they liked in the community, and we're starting to incorporate that within the facade of the building. From the standpoint of some of the mullions in the window systems, incorporating the old train locomotive window systems that the community that we had met with liked. So again, trying to bring in the community into a community facility that you would all be going to, and hopefully that we would have all of the amenities that is needed for this local community, that are upgraded. The operating room suite is state-of-the-art. There's nothing about anything that we're doing here that is not. It's going to be going from the facility that you know today to this is way beyond what I think everybody would see. So that's kind of details that we can get into later, but that's kind of the overview.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, Joe. So as we said, this is a project that's just starting its review process. We came here tonight to present the overview to the village board, answer any questions that you might have. There will be at least two public hearings on this project upcoming where the public can engage on it and review the materials. We will be providing electronic copies of all the materials so it can be put on the website. That way that can be accessed very readily, along with, all of you do, or at least some of you I see have a copy of the bound materials that we provided. That has everything in it but the traffic study, which just was finished. We did a traffic count on December 10th, so we wanted to get it while school was in session and as recent as possible. So, and we're also going to be we want to work with the school district. We know that certainly the in and out of the school district at dismissal times and arrival times is something that's caused some traffic congestion in the area. We've talked to the DOT about it. They feel that certainly the traffic circle will help eliminate that, but we want to sit down with the school district, the police department as well, and discuss how the two are going to interact with one another. As far as the timing goes, as you probably saw in the article in the paper, we're hoping to begin work in the spring on the project, providing we obtain the approvals from the village, and it's at least about an 18-month construction time frame on the project. So you're probably not going to see this really up at full operating point until around when the traffic circle's already built as well. So actually our analysis looks at it in context of that that traffic circle rather than just existing conditions. So we look at both, but we're assuming that that's going to be built. So that's the broad overview for the project. I'm happy to answer any questions that the board may have. Also, I've worked with your code enforcement officer, and if there's any questions that you come up with afterwards, after you've had a chance to look through the materials, feel free to run them through him, and he knows how to get a hold of me, and we'll make sure we provide that information back to the village, any concerns they might have.
Okay,
so that's all I have for this evening.
Do you have any questions?
I'm just curious, when and where will the public hearings be? Do we know yet?
I don't remember off the top of my head, but the February meetings we're
20th.
anticipating for both
The 20th.
Planning Board and Zoning Board of Appeals. Those would be public hearings on the applications.
Okay.
We have, as I mentioned, we have site plan approval from the Planning Board, so their public hearing.
Right, okay.
For both the plan and seeker, so it's the environmental and the site plan. And then the area variance with the Zoning Board of Appeals for the setback variance.
I believe the first one is the February the 20th?
February
Uh,
12th is the zoning board
12, okay.
Yep.
for the area variance, and the planning board will review it, I think it's on the 20th.
That's,
There's a holiday in there.
that
Yes.
sounds about
yes.
right to me.
So it's a Wednesday. Right.
And there's a work session for the planning board that people are welcome to come to, they just can't speak at it, where the planning board will work on the plans, and that's on the 8th.
Okay.
And there will be no approval in February, it'll be held over until March.
Right. Okay. Anybody else?
I have a comment. I was a quality assurance manager at the Allen Pavilion of Columbia Presbyterian Medical Center in 1988 and 1989. One of the problems we had was in our new building was that the architects didn't consider the size of the imaging equipment. So I ask that the radiological technicians be consulted before the building is built to make sure that the machines fit into the building. Another thing, the drains in the operating room need to have floors that slope towards the center. If the floors aren't sloped, the water and in the cleaning and the blood sits on the floor. They need to have sloping floors. That's all.
Thank you.
Thank you, we appreciate the comments. Yes.
I heard that, or you said that there's going to be public hearings. That's, you're working with all kinds of agencies for this, for advisement. You definitely need to have public input. There's already a lot of concern. I hope that you take these concerns into heed, that, these residents around here in the area, they are going to be directly affected by this, so please take public input and public concerns as high as all these other recommendations by the planning boards and SECR and all the others. These people live here, they pay taxes here, this is what's paying for this. Please consider the public input and public concerns during your process.
Certainly, thank you.
Anybody else? Well, thank you very much. Thank you for the presentation.
Thank you for the time, we appreciate it very much. We
Thank
look
you.
forward to working with the village going forward.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Very much. Please, feel free to stay, but. All right, going to the public portion.
This portion of the meeting is for public comment. Any member of the public wishing to speak once recognized shall stand and state their name and address. Speakers will be allowed 3 minutes if speaking for themselves or 5 minutes if speaking on behalf of a group. I will ask the speakers to refrain from remarks that are in poor taste, slanderous, or not germane to any action taken or contemplated by the board.
Yes, sir.
My name is Ross Conti. I live at 330 East Main Street in Fredonia. And just to set the record straight, we're not against in our community. We're not against the idea of progress and something that would benefit the community, but we do have concerns, particularly those that live in the immediate area. And most of them are centered around the traffic concerns and the safety issues. I have a unique position in that I do live in the neighborhood there, but I also have worked at the school in one capacity or another for 35 years. And I'm a constant attendee of that process of getting in and out of the school. I also coach kids that leave the school and cross those highways. Certainly the traffic circle is a concern because although you have very expert people that said, hey, this is a great idea, I've had expert people tell me that a center span in a bridge is a great idea too, and that hasn't done too well for myself or the village. So until something happens, it's hard to really understand. So what we are hoping for is that these concerns are taken into full consideration. We do have, and have already started a list of considerations that should be placed should this happen, of things that we think would make it just absolutely essential to preserve the quality of life for us in the neighborhood, and particularly the safety of people coming in and out of the school, particularly children. Fairly recently, I was the recipient of a 4-car accident on that highway, stretch of highway. I was just going to my residence on Main Street. Traffic was backed up at least a third of a mile, as it often is, and somebody didn't stop. Hit another vehicle, that vehicle hit my vehicle. There's going to be a lot of things going on that are new, and unless there's a really great job done of understanding all the potential issues, not just as far as the quality of life of what thing is going to look like, but particularly how it's going to affect the comings and goings in that area. It's already really, really difficult and at times really unsafe. So that is still our paramount concern. We do have a list of considerations. I'm not sure if this is the right place to present the information. It sounds to me that there will be further meetings where that can be done. I understand that is part of the process to look into these considerations. Some of them are aesthetic. Most of them center around safety. Primary, and I'll mention this right now, is it seems essential that there needs to be some form of egress, ingress off of Route 60, not just off that entranceway right there. That's already a nightmare as it is. And I know that there's already possibilities there. I've talked to people in the community that have property that could be used for ingress, egress, and willing to talk with whoever is the appropriate people to talk to, considering a right-of-way or an easement. And that would be essential if this project is to go forward.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Anybody else? Yes, sir.
Hi, my name is Mike Witcher. I'm at 303 East Main Street, just a little west of Ross County. So I've been there for 26, going on 27 years. And I would echo what Ross has indicated as far as traffic goes. That is really our main concern. And we're all for the village going forward and having the benefit of new structures and business. And Mayor, I would certainly commend you for your efforts in trying to benefit the village and the entire community. But obviously we do have these concerns, and I think everyone who travels down East Main Street, whether you live in the west end of the village or whether you live in Brockton or Cassadaga or somewhere else, if you've been there particularly in the morning, 7:30, 8:30, or in the afternoon, you know how hellish it can be to navigate that area, and we do have these safety concerns. I'm also concerned that it's yes, it may present a benefit to the village, but is it also a burden? Does the village get real estate taxes from a hospital, not-for-profit corporation? I don't think they do. So, you know, we've got more burden on the police, more burden on the fire department, should there be an event there. I understand that, you know, Things like death certificates are now going to have to be handled by the village because that's where the hospital is located. That's more burden on the village. So these are all factors that I think perhaps in our, I don't want to call it rush to judgment, but in our rush to bring in desperately new business into the village, I'm just concerned that those types of factors have been considered. So, and I don't mean to besmirch anyone, but I just hope that all, to the extent that the village board has control of this, that we all tread carefully and do your due diligence. We'll certainly do our due diligence in bringing these kind of factors forward to everyone's attention. So that being said, we'll certainly want to participate at the next set of meetings so that we can contribute and perhaps lend our criticism where it's due.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else? No? Okay, and with this very nice noise, I close the public portion. I want to say a few things about the hospital. First of all, I said something quite a few times, and I'm going to repeat it. When they first announced that they were looking for relocating the hospital, and that was 2016, my first reaction, and I talked to Mary, and I talked to some other people, was to stay in Dunkirk. That was my recommendation. Stay in Dunkirk where it is, where it belongs. Well, the answer was from everybody that I talked to that was close to impossible because the money that the governor have given them is not even close to be enough to bring the current building up to the code and to do the upgrades that they needed to be done. Well, when that happened, actually, I started looking because I thought that was my responsibility, and I talked with Jim here, who suggested the site. We looked into it, made sure that it was properly zoned, that it was convenient, and then we thought about it, and then I presented that possibility to Mary Leroux and the architects. Along with me, and that was an open meeting, by the way. It was an open meeting that the press was there as well. That was 2016. Along with me, there were about at least 10 people at the time offering sites. So between then and now, of course, many things happened. I have to say that I did not press anybody, but I did try to make a case, as good a case as I could, for that area. There are many different issues there. First of all, because you said something about tax, this is off the tax roll as it is right now, because it's owned by Cornell University. So we're not losing any money. So obviously, there were other businesses that they could go there. For example, a Target or a big store like that. But that would have mean that we're going to get some taxes, good thing. At the same time, 18-wheelers were going to go in and out of that property day and night. I didn't like that. The other thing I didn't like was that even the thought that we might lose a hospital in the area, it was devastating to me. This hospital is a regional hospital. Doesn't belong, I mean, it's in Dunkirk, obviously. It's Brooks Hospital by the first mayor of Dunkirk. I appreciate that, but it really serves the whole community. We desperately need to keep a hospital in the community. I believe that. As a physician, I cannot even tell you, I cannot even express it, how much I think that's imperative to our community. So at the end of the day, when they came and they told me the decision, obviously, it's nothing that we really can do. It's a private property being bought by another private corporation. So it's nothing we can do to that effect. But overall, and I had the concerns that you expressed, the traffic was my concern. Like what's going to happen at 3 o'clock when they change the shifts and the school comes out? That was my question. I traveled that road. I have 5 kids. Each one of my 5 kids went to that school. I went back and forth. I know very well about the traffic there. I can actually, I mean, I can't say that I can, I lived there, but I think I can imagine how difficult it is for you to live on a public, on a state highway. It's difficult, I can understand that. But as far as I am concerned, and our planning board is concerned, now zoning board is concerned, we're gonna cross every T and dot every I to make sure that the quality of life in our community is not in any way be lessened or even in fact, in any way change. And another thing, just gonna mention something for the city of Dunkirk. I understand that people are very upset because the hospital is leaving its current location. I understand that. We had something like that going on a few years ago. ConAgra left, and with it, it took 450 jobs. So we know what this kind of pain is. We understand that. But since the day one that I took office in this building, everybody's talking about regional solutions. Regional solutions. This is the best regional solution that I can imagine. This is a beautiful facility, state-of-the-art, that is going to come to our community and to our area. And if it's up to me, this is going to be a great regional hospital. So please come to all the meetings. I encourage you to come. I encourage you to bring all your concerns, because I want them to address them. I mean, none of us is going to be able to think of every single thing that you are, since you live there. Please be a part of it, and a positive part of it. So that's all I wanted to say about the hospital. On another issue, my report, I had many complaints. As you know, rental law, it was defeated. I had many complaints over the past 2 weeks, many complaints. So the only thing I can do about that is I'm going to call my committee to take a look, another look, and then send it to the planning board again. And the planning board, I'm going to ask you, I'm very sorry about that, but there's nothing else I can do. So I'm going to send it to you, the planning board, to consider some changes maybe, and to present a new version to the board. And that's my report. Trustee Christina.
I'd just like to say that the Chamber of Commerce banquet is next week, and many wonderful businesses and people who show Fredonia spirit and a love of the village are going to be honored. And the Chamber of Commerce is also looking at getting more people to join. So if you own a business or are interested in business, please come to our meetings. But it's going to be a wonderful banquet, and great people will be honored. So I'm looking forward to that.
Good, thank you. Trustee Linden.
Yeah, as committee representative for the buildings for Fredonia, I'd like to make a proposal that we consider during our budget process to enabling the possibility of hiring a maintenance person, someone who could do the repairs and maintenance, such as take care of things like that whistling in the window, which is an issue. But there's many issues that have gone unattended for a long time until they pile up to the point where then it becomes a big issue. We currently have an engineer that we brought on for small engineering projects that would be assisted and if needed. But we also, as far as building maintenance, these our buildings, they need, municipal buildings, they need a lot of attention on a regular basis, not just when they happen to get to be so big of a problem we have to look for outside financing even. I would like to ask the board to consider that.
Okay.
The next thing is, I have received a proposed contract for the PPD, the Portland Pomfret Dunkirk Township contract for the wastewater treatment. There seems to be a concern of how the contract was, by the committee, was crafted with regards to negotiations. And there's also, as far as the best interest of the village goes, when concerned with that contract. So we'll be looking into that as far as the discussion on that, as far as the best interest of the village where it stands.
Thank you. Trustee Essek.
Trustee Pierce, is this the time, would this be the time, maybe not the time to answer any of that or not?
We're going to discuss the VPD at some point.
Okay. Well, I'll discuss that later. I'd like to speak about the hospital here. Everybody that sits in front of you here was elected to take the best interests of the entire village at hand. I agree with the mayor, this hospital is a fantastic opportunity. It's only a fantastic opportunity if everything is done properly. We do all our vetting. And it's our responsibility to do that and to make sure that everything is done properly so that everybody's concerns and all the proper procedures and whatever needs to be done is done properly. So that's our duty that we took to when we were elected. So we will do that. I will. Nothing more.
Thank you. Trustee Bridges.
The only report I had was during our discussion regarding moving a couple of street lights in the village. As part of the lighting committee, I'm looking to move a street light located on Central Avenue from pole number 40 to pole number 41. It would cover the crosswalk area in front of the college. And during the workshop session, I think we discussed that the college is willing to help us pay for the cost of moving.
Exactly.
Okay.
Of removal.
So we'll just need to draft a
relocation.
resolution to allow NIMO to move that for us.
Yes,
Okay.
yes, we can have the resolution next meeting.
Yep.
Done?
If you need help writing it, I can.
Yeah, but I need basically some materials, just to make sure we're on the same page.
Yep, got that. And that's all I have on my committee reports.
Thank you. Trustee Barris.
I have no comments.
Thank you very much. So, going forward, we have the reports.
The first one is the Justice Report for December 2018. Number of cases closed, vehicle and traffic 45, criminal cases 44, village ordinances 10, civil cases 1, ABC laws 3, for a total of 103, fines and surcharges 5,029, parking tickets 2,600 for a total of 7,629. The Fire Department Annual Report for 2018. Fire calls 37, rescue and EMS total 1,503. Hazardous conditions, no fire 72, service calls 56. Good intent call 178, false alarm and false call 239. Severe weather and natural disasters 3 for a total of 2,089. The Code Enforcement Month for December 2018. Permits issued 15, inspections 13, certificate of occupancy 9, certificate of compliance 41, violations found 49, violations satisfied 25, total fees collected 5,790, and rental inspections 56 total.
Thank you very much. Correspondence dated November 14, 2018 was received from Rick Davis, Executive Director of the 1891 Fredonia Opera House Incorporated, requesting the use of Barker Common, the gazebo, certain village streets, and the closing of Church Street between Day and Temple for the 5K run Sunday, April the 28th, 2019, from 7 a.m. to 2 p.m.
Be it resolved that the request from Rick Davis, Executive Director of the 1891 Fredonia Opera House Incorporated, to use Barker Common, the gazebo, certain village streets, and the closing of Church Street between Day and Temple for a 5K run on Sunday, April 29th, 2019, from 7 a.m. to 2 p.m. is hereby approved with the stipulation that the group will be responsible for cleanup and is subject to the direction of the police department and the village receiving a certificate of insurance in the amount of $1 million, naming the village as an additional insured, which has been received.
I'll second the motion.
Trustee Christina?
Yes.
Trustee Linden?
Aye.
Trustee Essek?
Yes.
Trustee Briggs?
Yes.
Trustee Barris?
Aye.
Thank you. It is passed.
Be it resolved that Micheline E. Comerford, 96 Water Street, Fredonia, is hereby reappointed to the Zoning Board of Appeals for a term of 5 years, which shall expire January 2024.
I second the resolution.
Trustee Christina?
Yes.
Trustee Linden?
Aye.
Trustee Essek?
Yes.
Trustee Briggs?
Yes.
Trustee Barris?
Aye.
5-0.
Whereas the price thresholds contained in the village's procurement policy rely on those established by the New York State General Municipal Law, and whereas the General Municipal Law thresholds have increased substantially since the village's policy was last updated, therefore be it resolved that the village's procurement policy is hereby amended as follows. 1. Purchase contracts under $20,000 will not require public bidding. 2. Public works contracts under $35,000 will not require public bidding. 3. Goods and services with an estimated value of less than $3,000 are not subject to the procurement policy. Number 4, purchase contracts with an estimated value of $3,000 to $5,999 shall require verbal quotations unless otherwise exempt. Number 5, purchase contracts with an estimated value of $6,000 to $19,999 shall require written quotations or requests for proposals or qualifications unless otherwise exempt. Number 6, public works contracts with an estimated value of $3,000 to $5,999 shall require verbal quotations unless otherwise exempt. Number 7, public works contracts with an estimated value of $6,000 to $9,999 shall require written quotations unless otherwise exempt. Number 8, public works contracts with an estimated value of $10,000 to $34,999 shall require written quotations or requests for proposals or qualifications unless otherwise exempt. Be it further resolved that the terms of the village's procurement policy, not otherwise amended by this resolution, are hereby readopted.
I second that.
Trustee Christina?
Yes.
Trustee Linden?
Aye.
Trustee Essek?
Yes.
Trustee Briggs?
Yes.
Trustee Barris?
I vote aye. Whereas the village requires an ambulance to provide emergency services, and whereas the village can, quotes, tag on, end quotes, to the bid previously accepted by the city of Dunkirk, and whereas Gorman Emergency Vehicles has agreed to manufacture an ambulance to the village's specifications at a cost of $178,790. Therefore, be it resolved, the mayor is hereby authorized and directed to enter into an agreement with Gorman Emergency Vehicles for the purchase of an ambulance.
I second that.
Trustee Christina?
Yes.
Trustee Linden?
Aye.
Trustee Essek?
Yes.
Trustee Briggs?
Yes.
Trustee Barris?
Aye.
Whereas the Village of Fredonia and O'Brien and Gear Engineers Incorporated entered into a professional service agreement dated February 1st, 2018, and whereas the Village and O'Brien and Gear now wish to amend said agreement, now therefore, be it resolved, Item 4 of the agreement, Exhibit S, Scope of Services, is amended as follows. In Scope of Services, section under Task 2, Final Design Phase, insert the following. Retain a qualified specialty subcontractor to perform internal video inspection, mechanical cleaning, and plant water/sample line and chemical line replacement within the clear well. Engineer assumes that coordination of subcontractors' field activities will be by owner. And be it further resolved that the fee section shall be amended to delete the total budget amount of $239,100 and substitute $267,138, and be it further resolved to delete final design phase budget amount $58,300 and substitute $86,338.
I second the resolution.
Trustee Christina?
Yes.
Trustee Linden?
Aye.
Trustee Essek?
Yes.
Trustee Briggs?
Yes.
Trustee Barris?
Aye.
Be it resolved that the request for the Festivals Fredonia Committee to use the East and West Barker Commons and gazebo, various parking spaces and village streets for the 51st Annual Farm Festival, August 22nd through the 25th, 2019, is hereby approved. And be it further resolved that Center Street between Church Street and Barker Street be closed from 6 p.m. to 9 p.m. for the Fredonia Fireman's Hose Race, and Temple Street from Risley Street to Main Street be temporarily closed from 11:30 a.m. to 1 p.m. on Sunday, August 25th, 2019 for the annual Farm Festival Parade. And be it further resolved that the Fredonia Farm Festival may use the parking facility off Water Street from August 22nd to August 25th, 2019 to accommodate vendors or crafters' vehicles, trucks, and trailers. This will reduce the congestion on Park Street, west side, on which no parking will be allowed. And be it further resolved that the gazebo will be used on August 22nd through the 25th, 2019, for the purpose of musical entertainment, opening ceremonies, family movie night, car show, and setup for vendors. Be it further resolved that the craft vendors be permitted to set up their booths after 1:30 p.m. the afternoon of Thursday, August 22nd, 2019, and the food vendors be permitted to set up at 5 p.m. on August 22nd, 2019. All booths will open at noon on Friday, August 23rd, 2019. Be it further resolved that Church Street between Center Street and Temple Street and Day Street be closed from 4:30 p.m. August 22nd, 2019 to 8 p.m. on August 25th, 2019. Be it further resolved that the Day Street between Church Street and Main Street be closed from 4:30 p.m. August 22nd, 2019 to 8 p.m. August 25th, 2019. Be it further resolved that the Police Department bag meters on Main Street in front of the West Main and East Park only, and the Park Place and Day Streets from 4 p.m. Thursday, August 22nd, 2019 to 10 p.m. on Sunday, August 25th, 2019. And bag 2 meters on Main Street in front of each park as handicap parking only from 7 a.m. Friday, August 22nd, 2019 to 11 p.m. on Sunday, August 25, 2019. And be it further resolved that Church Street between Day Street and Park Street and Day Street between East Main Street and Church Street be closed from 4:30 p.m. Thursday, August 23rd, 2019. Is that a typo?
Yes.
To 10 p.m. on Sunday, August 26, 2019. And be it further resolved that Park Place be closed between Church Street and West Main Street on Sunday, August 26, 2019, from 11 a.m. to 6:30 p.m. to accommodate an antique car show. And be it further resolved that the village clerk is hereby authorized to write a letter to the Fredonia Farm Festival Committee stating that this board grants permission for the use of the front half of the Village Hall parking lot, first 2 rows of parking only, but no employee parking spots during this year's Farm Festival. And be it further resolved that the village board requests that the Fredonia Farm Festival Committee comply with the following items. Number 1, the vendors between the sidewalk and curb along Route 20. No vendors between the sidewalk and curb along Route 20. Number 2, the number of vendors is subject to the Board of Trustees receiving a plan showing the number and location of the designated vendor spaces and to allow access to the water hookups August 23rd through the 26th, 2019. No vendor, number 3, no vendor shall sell distasteful adult items. Number 4, trash will be picked up on an as-needed basis and nothing left overnight. Number 5, walkways will not be obstructed. Number 6, electrical wires will be properly protected to prevent accidents. Number 7, food vendors shall be located on Church Street in front of Village Hall between Day and Temple Street. The vendors shall be situated in a U-shaped configuration, and vendors may set up their booths after 4:30 p.m. Thursday, August 23rd, 2019. Number 8, arts and craft vendors may set up their booths after 1:30 p.m. on Thursday, August 23rd, 2019. All tents must be properly secured. Number 10, the use of Barker Commons by the Farm Festival Committee shall not restrict the business activities of existing businesses within the village of Fredonia, and be it further resolved that the above use of Barker Common and street closings are subject to the direction of the Fredonia Police Department and the Department of Public Works. And be it further resolved that the request to suspend the open container law has not been determined yet. And we discussed this, correct?
We did.
And be it further resolved that the Fredonia Fire Department and the Fredonia Police Department be notified of the above closings. And be it further resolved that this resolution is subject to receipt by the village, to the receipt by the village of a certificate of insurance from the Farm Festival Committee showing the village of Fredonia as an additional insured in the amount of at least $1 million.
I second that.
Trustee Christina?
Yes.
Trustee Linden?
Aye.
Trustee Essek?
Yes.
Trustee Briggs?
Yes.
Trustee Barris?
No.
All right, go further.
Whereas the village requires assistance to documents and logistics concerning state funding for water projects within the village. And whereas Municipal Solutions Incorporated, 62 St. Leroy, New York, has offered to provide said assistance for a total fee not to exceed $13,000. And whereas Municipal Solutions Incorporated is offering to provide a professional service which is not subject to public bidding pursuant to paragraph 3 of the village's procurement policy, therefore be it resolved that the mayor is hereby authorized and directed to enter into an agreement with Municipal Solutions Incorporated.
I second the resolution.
Trustee Christina?
Yes.
Trustee Linden?
Aye.
Trustee Essek?
Yes.
Trustee Briggs?
Yes.
Trustee Barris?
Yes.
And I think with that, can I have an adjournment?
I'll make a motion to adjourn if there's no further discussion.
I'll second the motion.
Trustee Christina?
Yes.
Trustee Linden?
Aye.
Trustee Essek?
Yes.
Trustee Briggs?
Yes.
Trustee Barris?
Yes.
Thank you very much for coming.